Got to the well, we've is it always at the start of these videos. Sometimes I'm being really quiet at the beginning. It's because the thing is still doing the circle of death. Don't know. We're live now. Okay. End of day 35 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 2, Phase 2. We have heard the first day of evidence of HN1, the undercover police officer who used the cover name Matt Rayner. I'm joined with Donal O'Driscoll from the Undercover Research Group.
Hello.
This afternoon, we have been going through a lot of HN1's reports, calling him out on some of the appalling language he used, a lot of the pejoratives he sticks in, the high levels of disrespect. I mean, that he puts in his report. And this is really common for a lot of undercover officers. He tried to deflect, saying, "Oh no, he's not been disrespectful," claiming he was quoting people. Very similar playbook to what we saw from Bob Lambert, really. Except then, there at the end, he said, "It wasn't me. It must have been someone else who rewrote it."
Wow, that was one of the that was, to me, that was one of the highlights of the day. It's like he's got this line. This guy, all he can do is lift cans aside and sleep with one of his three friends, and the barrister actually just goes, "Come on, who else is going to write this? It's you." And he goes, "I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have said that." And she said, "Well," he's like, "But it's your report." "Yeah, I would have contributed to it." And it goes on, and she says, "Okay, well, your managers are Lambert, and I can't remember the other two, and McIntosh." And says, so was it one of them? And it was just like spot on. If it wasn't him, it was one of them. It was just like, and he just couldn't answer the question.
What he said was, "Oh, it might have been mine." It's just like, "Oh shit, what have I said?"
And like, it comes across as like, I'm very, well-educated, things, but it's like, large hole on ground, and you can't see the obvious question coming at him. And I was noticing at the start of the day, he had a very formal, very calm, very well educated, using big words. Not by the end. A lot of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the biggest difference was, his opening the first 20 minutes, the way that he was presenting himself there, and then the bit. Very smooth, very articulate, like kind of the big, articulate. And then, when it got to the questions about the Lawrence family and stuff, and he was quiet as a mouse. The volume just was dialed right down. A lot more flat. By the end, he was flapping around the place, And
you could see that somebody noted, and I thought it was really astute, was that there's a lot more ums.
Yes.
Suddenly it was like, oh, do I need to be more careful about how I respond? And like, he's always dancing around, but he doesn't quite have the skills to do it. So you just go, oh man, stop lying. It's like Andy Coles, and you're just going, you're just wasting our time here. All you're doing is show how much you don't want to answer the question, and that just begs more. And like, oh, there was no sexism. I didn't hear any such language. I just happened to call all women girls and all girls attractive or ugly.
I mean, we saw a lot of that, right? Where it's like he was shown written reports by him, by other people, and is this indicative of how people talk inside the SDS? Oh no, that was never said. No. They were much worse when they wrote things down than when they spoke, because they all spoke like choir boys and wrote like sailors.
Oh well, he did do a piano scholarship.
I mean, yeah, he's been a very difficult character to listen to, right?
Difficult, and it's like, particularly with this group, you just find yourself drifting off. It's like when you know somebody is lying, you don't actually want to spend attention. There's a subconscious reaction going, I don't actually want to listen to this because none of this is true. And you have to consciously think, I have to listen to this because I want to be able to say nonsense. This does not add. And I think this is where the barrister Emma Gargetter is doing a great job. She's able to listen, and then she go, "Can we go to B118?" And it's just like when she says that, she's got a response ready. Yeah. She's ready listening and stuff. So it's been nice to actually hear her coming back and just go, well, "You're obviously talking crap." Or in a more polite way.
I have to say, yesterday when it was mentioned that Emma Gargetter would be the person questioning, rather than what I assumed it would be David Barr, because it's been Barr for pretty much all the undercover officers up until now, and I was a bit disappointed a little bit. I was like, oh, he's going to get an easy ride. Nothing could be further from the truth. Emma Gargetter did really, really well. I was really impressed. She kept the receipts, as they like to say.
She got the receipts, yes, and she had them, and there wasn't like, oh, let me go away and think about this. It's like I asked the question. It's like you could answer this or you'd answer that, and if I answer that, bang.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think she was particularly good. I mean, it's something which obviously barristers, it's one of their things. Little things he mentioned in passing. She was like, "Oh, what do you mean by this?" And he was like, "Oh shit, caught out again."
Or more in his case.
He was. Yeah. We've got 3 days of him, but I mean, like, he's got a 293-page written statement. I'm guessing you've got a better working knowledge of that statement than I have. I mean, I think everybody has. But like, how far have we got through it? Are we a third away through his questioning, do you think?
Oh no, it's going to be a late one on Friday.
Yeah.
I will put money on that. Yeah. There's so much to get through. There's the stuff that will have to be held in close. Like, some big substantive topics have been dealt with today, but I'm sure we're not over them. Like, this can't be the entirety of the stuff on Liz Fuller and the relationships. There's all the Jeff Shepherd stuff alone, which will probably take half a day. And if you think back to Liz's evidence yesterday, it's like you come away with an impression of somebody who was gung-ho, up for it, get a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and this matches some of the other undercovers. There's different types of undercovers. I think of Rod Richardson, the degree Mark Kennedy. Is like they're excited because they know they can get away with it. They can go out and do these things and be cool with the kids, and then report on it, but nothing's going to come back. So for him to be doing that stuff, knowing that if he got caught, it would be serious shit. So I'm really looking forward when they put a whole bunch of what Liz and Paul Gravett have said to him. I think he's going to really stumble, and he's going to try and create a very, very different picture. And something else I was thinking today when I was listening was like, he has created a narrative in his head, and it's all about, okay, they're going to ask me this, and this is how I'm going to defend it because I have this. It's like with Trevor Morris, I've got this self-image, and the moment you start pushing on that image and then saying, well, actually, this is not really true, they really struggle to handle it. Like, there was a really telling bit this morning about the commissioner's apology, and he was going about the adjectives. Who else did that to the same degree? It's Trevor Morris. Couldn't handle the fact that the self-image that these weren't the golden boys of the special branch, the elite of the elite, the secret unit in the secret unit in the secret unit. Well, actually, no, you're just a bunch of wankers. Well, actually, that's putting it unfair to wankers. They're sexual abusers. Yeah. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was some really offensive. I mean, it opened up very strong. Some really offensive things this morning. Particularly around his sexual abuse. I mean, his whole thing that he was expecting. Yeah, he was expecting to get some credit for taking part in the inquiry. Which, I mean, I really just you don't get any credit for the bare minimum.
I think we should give him an MBE for that.
Honestly, I think this is, we've seen, because we've had all these various undercover officers now, we're seeing certain playbooks. And like you say, he's definitely taking a few pages out of Trevor Morris's playbook, but also out of Bob Lambert's.
Yeah.
This idea that somehow being reliable and committed and, a bit quiet and in the background was enough to get him on the inside of, the ALF is just laughable.
Yeah, I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm a rights activist. I've got my criminal convictions. I am proud of all my things. But I'm listening and it's like, no fucking way is that how it works. But you just sat there at the back and he went, oh mate, do you want to come along and get arrested?
Hey, Matt, we trust you. Hey Matt, you're so trustworthy by being reliable.
Yeah, and then you compare it to Liz's evidence. It's like he got known because he was clearly up for it and because he knew he was going to get away. Even if he got arrested, he wasn't going to get a slap on the wrist and probably a commendation.
Yeah. And we saw a little glimpse of that actually when he was said, it was said to him, it must have been an anathema to be a serving police officer and to going out and committing crimes and getting yourself arrested. And he was, oh no, I didn't feel that because I'd been authorised to do these things.
Oh yeah, no, there's clearly starting to slip. I think it's going to be true of all the animal rights ones. Bob Lambert starts to slide, and it's just like, oh well, it's okay for Lambert and Chitty, and they did their things and they got away, and now you can see how quickly it's become the culture and it's accepted, and it's like. Before it was like, oh, we had a road traffic accident. It was really bad. And now it's like, oh yeah, go away, drink driving, or go smash up a shop, or pour red paint, or whatever it is. It becomes so normalised. They've got into the habit of fixing the system. I think that's even this is just the undercovers. When it comes to the managers, this is a big thing. It's like, how much were you fixing the system, and how much had this gone to your head?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there is another slip up actually, which I thought was quite notable, is that he could barely veil his contempt for Andy Coles, or Mr. Coles, as he referred to him as. Whatever Mr. Coles thinks he's worked out.
Yes, no. Clearly, you can. Yeah, well, this is the interesting thing is that Coles was the sleazebag.
Yeah.
He's not a sleazebag. He genuinely loved Liz, and he wants to make the distinction. He wants to try and say that his relationship with Liz was somehow okay, whereas Coles was just a pervert. And he's trying to gild the lily. Yeah. It's like, at the end of the day, mate, you're just as bad as Coles. Coles was a horrible sleazy guy. You're worse in the case that you're trying to make this whole pretense of you were really in love. And again, where we heard this before, it's Pierce, it's Lambert, but it's also Mark Kennedy. They know they're abusers, but they can't actually hold their hands up and say, sorry, I will apologize. We're going to try and defend it. We're going to say we didn't do really abuse. I was like, well, I'm sure loads of domestic abusers also go around saying, I still love you really after I've punched you. It's like, well, sorry, you're the same.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think there was... I think it was really telling, actually, early on, when he was being asked about the way in which the unit had been besmirched, and he's blaming Peter Francis for all this sort of stuff, and then he's going to put to him, well, what about Bob Lambert fathering a child, and you having an affair, and he's, I'm not in the same bracket as Bob Lambert, and then somehow, but what Bob Lambert did was bad, but I didn't do anything that bad, and then he kind of spends the entire day, whenever Bob Lambert comes up, being really nice about Bob Lambert, talking about him as such a great guy, somebody he looked up to, saying he's as good as Bob Lambert within the unit, really, literally, this morning's session, before the break, the first thing he talks about is how he's not as bad as Bob Lambert. The last thing he says is he's as good as Bob Lambert in the unit. In particular, and he loved talking about himself, didn't he? How good he was, how he was suited to it.
But this all goes to that delusion. But I think you touched on a very interesting point, because you said earlier about the managers. As soon as it comes to the pressure, he will throw other people under the bus straight away. He cannot take any accountability, and this is why I think he's very much like the Trevor Morris, Scotland Kings of the world. It's like no responsibility, and I'm hoping that Emma Gargate will come back to later. So, do you apologise? Because he won't be able to do it.
Well, and that was the wonderful thing. It was when he was on about the apology from the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, and he said, "Well, that wouldn't be the words of my apology." And it's like, "What apology? You don't mean any fucking apology? What the hell are you on about?"
Yeah. Here's your
opportunity.
And it was the same, back in July with Trevor Morris. It's like, here's your apology. Here is your chance. The opening is created. Yeah. And they're just standing at the top of the go, nope, I don't care how much shit pours on me, I'm not apologising.
Or I think what's worse is saying that they making an apology, but they don't actually do it. They just, obviously I apologise for that, but it's just there's no actual act of doing it.
And this is so lacking, and I think it's part of why people get really upset just watching it. Is just this honesty. I think we are actually that stupid that we would be fooled by you saying that you want to make an apology, but your words are different. Well, nobody is stopping you. You could be false, and you could be out there. Just stop this pretense.
I think, I'm not, far be it from me to give any advice to any former undercover police officers, but I would say, given that the actions that you did 30 years ago at this stage, there's nobody going to be longer ago than that at this point onwards, it's long enough to go, that was me then, this is me now, I have grown and changed, I apologise for my previous self, that was very wrong of me. Nobody has taken that opportunity. I think Graham Coates, I guess, came closest. He didn't even really do that, but, this idea...
There was one or two of them who did... like in Tranche 1, and sort of acknowledged, he said, that was my young... They didn't quite say, I am sorry, but that was my younger self. I wouldn't do that. No, that was time. But, there was some acknowledgement it wasn't right.
Yeah. We did hear from... one of the hilarious ones was him trying to claim that anybody born before the year 2000, wouldn't understand what it was like with these large demonstrations disrupting the whole of London, And this idea that somehow it was a different time before, you know, the early 2000s. And it's just like, oh, come on, we heard the different time argument about the 70s, about the 60s, about the 70s, about the 80s, and now we're hearing about the early 2000s. Fuck off, you know?
Yeah, it's this Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil, Palestinian Action, absolutely fabulous groups going out and doing great things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's 2010, the student revolt.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, that none of that existed because, you know, it's a
Yes,
this
yes,
is sort of it's their world. They did, you know, it's
Yeah.
like blind, and you know, I think this arrogance just is part of why the unit just ended up being as shit as it was. It's like, you're wonderful, you will get whatever you want, and you'll get plum choices jobs, and they have been spun this bullshit for years, and they believed their. Is that the worst case scenario? Is they've believed their own lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. I mean, they have absolutely internalized their own logic. And I mean, it gets to the point where, you know, we're showing things were demonstrably. I mean, the classic one, I think, was the LucasAid hoax, which Coles claimed, no, that was real. It wasn't a hoax at all. And it was just like, there's no evidence whatsoever. What the hell are you basing this on?
How do you know it was real? It's like, were you involved? It's like, and like, did you mean to say somebody came up to, hey, I just rang up and made a hoax call, and it's just like, you know. As somebody who's been, you know, active in those circles, like, you would, in the if I was going to do that, I wouldn't tell a single soul of things. So yeah, there's this. Listening to these people, you think that the entirety of the animal rights movement in London in the 90s was nothing but gossiping about the actions that they did. It was just like, so these are some, you know, but yet they're presenting people like Shafford and and others, you know, it's like, you know, really secret evidence things. Like, you're trying to square a circle here. Either they didn't talk about it, and you had to be involved to do it, or everybody was gossiping. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways.
It's an utter nonsense. I mean, it's very clear. I mean, obviously, but I think it's very clear that they'd come up with this model where literally undercover officers get involved, get their hands dirty, get on the inside, and find out lots of information about direct action that's taking place, criminal damage that's taking place, or whatever. And rather than own up to that and go, well, this was what we were told to do. This was the unit. This was the MO, you know, of the unit. There's still such loyalty. Oh no, not at all. We were all just being invisible in the background.
And I think it really is a case of, you know, the man just said, if you don't tell us, then we can't say no. It's just like, but we'll back you up if anything happens. But, you know, clearly there's other little mentoring conversations going on. It's like, this is what conversations down the pub are actually about. It's like, go do this, like, we'll have your back, but, you know, no one's going to write this down. This is why there's no tradecraft manual or anything like that, is because they know they're stepping over lines, but nobody wants to make it because they, you know, it's like they've got the whole of the policing regulations. You know, so going earlier, it's like the sleeping with a woman, you know, discreditable conduct. Well, yes, it is, but, you know, it's like, no, you're allowed to do discreditable conduct, we just can't say. And that's the omerta in all of this.
Absolutely, yeah. And we saw a little glimpse of that with one of the reports that was about a solicitor, not the one that was enclosed, but the previous one. The one enclosed we actually can't name them, but previous one about another solicitor. And it's like, and he says, oh, it's purposefully not named because obviously it's a solicitor doing their job, so we can't really, and it included, you know, legal privileged. What's the bloody term?
Professional privilege.
Yeah, legal professional privilege is being reported on, and it's like, so obviously, you know, it's not named, and there's this idea that the reports are written in such a way to avoid giving too much information out because they knew what they were doing was wrong, but it's still trying to justify it.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. This one, Rayner, HN1, is like using language like proportional and you know. This is human rights legislation. It's like, you've got legal training. Wherever you've got to, you've got something that you know, proportional, justified, whatever. You knew you had to play things, and they all went through this training. And, you know, of course, none of them remember any of their training whatsoever, conveniently. So, even though they wrote signed pieces of paper, and it's just like, yeah, you're stretching the truth a bit. You know, either you were really lowly DCs who didn't know your arse from their elbow, which some of them clearly didn't, or then you knew what you're going, you knew you didn't write it down because you were stretching it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that they're hiding stuff. I mean, like, it just seems so incredibly clear. We probably should get out of here. It's 6 o'clock now. There's actually a reasonable time for us to get out of the building. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Oh, listening tomorrow.
Yeah, listen tomorrow. We've got Matt's coming back for 2 more days. Plenty more for him to be asked about. There will be some closed, but as it stands, the majority of things over the next two days will be broadcast over YouTube, audio only, sadly. But and if anybody recognises his voice, there was something today. I don't know whether it was just I got used to it or whatever, but I was like, there's something about his voice. I recognise it from somewhere. Anybody has any ideas who he might be these days? Because he's clearly someone important. There's plenty of opportunity to let us know. All right, thanks for joining, and we'll see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bye for now.